Today's lesson is on measurement, but we're going to use customary units of measurement. So how can we use fractions more precisely when we measure? We just finished up adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing fractions. Well, we're going to use fractions again when we measure using a ruler. Think of a time when it might be really important to measure an object as precisely as possible. When you're building something. Good example.
When you're in class, learning stuff.
Okay. Okay. Cole?
When you're doing a sheet of paper and you're talking about measuring.
Okay, let's think of real life. Okay. Will?
When an artist is doing a drawing.
Good example.
Like when you install a new appliance.
A new appliance. Good example. At my house a couple years ago, we got a new refrigerator, and lo and behold, it didn't fit because we have a cupboard above it, and so we tried to slide it in, and oh, nope, wouldn't fit. That wasn't very smart of us to not measure ahead of time, was it? Aaron? Putting in new floor. Okay, all really good examples. So it's really necessary to measure an object precisely when you're building things. Anything that needs to be put together or fit together, Brendan. So the first unit that we're going to talk about today, the one that we're going to measure everything with is inches. So what would it be an example of some objects that we might measure in inches? You can look around the room. You can think of your house. Objects that we would measure in inches. America.
Ear.
Your ear. You mean the height of your ear? Okay. Let's be as specific as possible. Emma? Your desk. The height of your desk, the width of your desk, what? Okay, the length of your desk. Aiden?
Like how high a plant is.
How tall a plant is growing. Good example. Will? The length of your writing utensil. Your shoe size.
Like the height of the book.
The height of your book, and the height of an animal. Okay, good examples. So you would measure objects such as the width of a piece of paper, let's just say. What other customary units do we know of? So we know we use inches a lot. Especially in our country, we use customary units always. In other countries, they use metric units. We're not going to focus on those today. We'll save those for tomorrow. Today we're only focusing on customary units, like inches. What would be some other units that we might use if the objects we're measuring aren't the right size for inches? Feet would be a good example of a unit. Can you think of any others? Darius? Miles. There's one more that we might use. Sam? Yards. So starting from the smallest to the largest, we have inches, then feet, then yards, then miles. We would never ever lay down a ruler from the school to Jasper and measure that amount in inches, would we? No, that wouldn't make sense. Nope, feet, yards, and miles, if we're measuring length anyway. Now tomorrow we're going to talk about metric, but not today. So, yep, it is. Anytime you hear the word meter, it's metric. So since an inch is divided into equal parts, we can use fractions that we are already comfortable with to measure different lengths. So this DVD case could be measured to the nearest 1 inch, to the nearest half an inch, to the nearest fourth of an inch, even to the nearest eighth of an inch, simply by looking at the lines on the ruler. Before you measure it precisely, you can always estimate about how long something will be. So if you were looking at that DVD case, about how long do you think it would be? Natasha? About how long is that DVD case? 7 inches is correct. So that's a good estimate. We know that our answer is going to be close to 7 inches, maybe a little more, maybe a little less. So if we were using the ruler to find the exact length of this DVD case, we have to ask specifically to the nearest what type of an inch, the nearest what section. Brendan, I need your eyes and your ears up here the whole entire time, okay? Oh, I need to back up here. You always need to line up the end of your ruler with the end of the object. Typically, the end of your ruler will have a 0 on it. Every once in a while, you're going to find the 0, maybe up a little ways, but for the most part, they're usually on the end. What fraction would you use if you put a mark halfway between the 0 and the 1/8? So as you look at what we have marked on our ruler, we know that this is 1/2. We know that this is 1/4. We know that these are 1/8. Let me back up to the 1/2. How many halves are in a whole? Shout it out. Two. How many fourths are in a whole? How many eighths are in a whole? 8/8 are in a whole. So what if I wanted halfway between? Right there. What would that be as a fraction? Think about this now. Check out the pattern. What do you think, Brendan? What fraction would be between 0 and 1/8? Aaron? No, not 9, not 1/9. What's happening to these numbers, you guys? Dathan. So what would our fraction be? 1/16. How many 16ths would it take to get to a whole? 16 of them, right? Okay, so that little guy right there represents 1/16. Now, luckily for us today, we don't have to measure to the nearest 16th. Not in any of the things we practice today. The closest thing we will measure will be to the nearest 1/8 of an inch. So, what would be the length of this DVD case to the nearest 1/2 inch? The nearest 1/2 inch. What do you think, Dathan? 7.5. Now, to the nearest 1/2 inch can also be right on the whole number. So 6, 6.5, 7, 7.5, 8. Dathan says this DVD case is closest to 7.5. Would you guys agree? Yeah. Definitely. It is. It is. It's closest to this one right here. What if I asked that same question, but I said, what is the length of the DVD case to the nearest 1/4 of an inch? Okay, let me show you the fourths. We have 1/4, 2/4, which is the same as a 1/2, 3/4, 4/4. So, what do you think, Will? First say your whole number. 7 4/4 would be right up here. We want fourths. So your answer should be in fourths, unless you're simplifying it. Here's 3/4 right here. Look at that yellow sheet that I gave you that has the ruler on the bottom. That might help you. What do you think, Darius? It is tricky, isn't it? It is, like right here. But I would say it's closer to this one. So what would that be? 7 1/4. 7 1/4. That's right. Now, what if I said measure that same exact DVD case, but measure it to the nearest 1/8? I'm going to show you the eighths. 1/8, 2/8, 3/8, 4/8, 5/8, 6/8, 7/8, 8/8. What do you think, Sarah?
7 3/8.
Thank you for remembering the whole number. It's really important that we know our answer is somewhere between 7 and 8. So 7 and, she said, 3/8. She's correct. 7 3/8 would be our answer. Okay. I want you guys to take a little quiz with me together. So if this worm was found under a rock and we wanted to measure it to the nearest inch, look at your choices. What would be the right answer? To the nearest inch. Kiara? I'm going to give you guys a hint. There are answers in your choices that can't possibly be because they are not to the nearest inch. What do you think the answer is, Kiara? 1.5. But we want to the nearest inch. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, etc. inches. Which is that closest to? Can you see it from back there? It's kind of tough to see, isn't it? I know it's hard. Do you need to walk up and get a little closer? No? Is this closer to 0 inches, 1 inch, 2 inches, or 3 inches? Yeah. See, this one here can't be a choice because it's not a full whole number. This one here can't be a choice. 0, well, that's never a good choice because anytime you're measuring something, it's got to be something, right? Otherwise, it would be a blank picture. So B is our correct answer. Let's move on to the next question, which is, I want you to think about this. And if it helps you to look at your yellow paper ruler, you can. So there's a paper clip. And the paper clip comes somewhere between 2 3/4 and 3 1/8. So how long is that paper clip if they want you to measure it to the nearest inch? To the nearest inch, that means a whole number. So look at your choices. These are all good choices. But if it's somewhere between here and here, what would it be? Oh, guys, every hand should be up. This is not a hard question. Sam? 3, yeah. It's a little more than 2 3/4 and a little less than 3 1/8. Here's our answer, letter C. How many inches long would this eraser be if the question says, give me the measurement to the nearest inch? Kaylin? It's kind of a tricky one. A little bit tricky anyway. Yeah, we always round up, don't we? So it's actually right in the middle. But anytime it's right in the middle, we always go up. So 2 is our answer, letter C. Here's another question, just like the paper clip question. We're measuring a pencil this time. And it's somewhere between 5 3/4 and 6 1/4. How long is that pencil if I measured it to the nearest inch? Alexis? Five inches. Nope, you're off. It's got to be more than this. 5 inches is less than that. Emma? It's 6 inches. If on your paper ruler, Alexis, you found this and put an X by it, and then you found this and put an X by it, and looked between those two, you would have found the answer. Yeah. Here's our last one. This is a little tricky. Jack said he caught a fish that was 18 inches long. 18 inches long. So which of those cannot be true?
Good morning. It's Monday, February 24th. Great job by the wrestlers at the section tournament. 6th place, Garrett Sawyer. 5th place, James
Cole?
Hogrick. 4th place, Walker Core, Alan Hackman.
That could be true. That's to the 18 1/4 is close to 18. He means D. Do you guys agree? Yeah, this would be closest to 17. Okay, we got to pause.